Good afternoon, Source Gamers. I'm PhantomZ2, and today I have with me NantenJex.
Hello.
And a very special guest from Yacht Club Games, designer and director Alec Faulkner.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. It's actually very not often that I personally get to interview someone, or let alone a director of a video game that I'm really looking forward to. So thank you
so much
for thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for agreeing.
It's my pleasure.
To start off, one thing that we usually do on our podcast, Good Morning Source Gaming, is that we ask everybody how they're doing, and also what game have you been playing recently. So, how have you been doing?
It's been a pretty good, pretty eventful Thursday for me. The reception of the game has just been amazing, so I'm in a pretty good mood. And as far as what games I've been playing, man, lately I haven't had much time for anything. Just as a habit and good practice, I've been going through those Zelda games on Game Boy again. So I'm in the middle of Oracle of Ages for the who knows how many time right now.
Nice. Which one of those three are your favorite Ages, Seasons, or Awakening?
Oh, it's got to be Link's Awakening DX specifically. I think as far as color remakes, that it doesn't get better than Link's Awakening.
The pivotal
DX.
one, isn't it?
Yeah, it had a whole new dungeon
and
everything. Yeah, just amazing.
I wish I could talk about it as well, because I have not played many Zelda games. I played like 3, but I have not played the Oracle of Seasons games.
Pretty cool.
They might get a remake eventually.
If that's the case, then I'll play them. Or if they're available on Wii, I'll probably buy them through there. So for us and our audience to get a better insight into who you are and your history, how exactly did you get into game design, and then also eventually make your way to Yacht Club Games?
So I went to film school for film and television production. After about a semester, I was like, I don't think I really fit in with these types of people, and I think I'd rather do something else. And so I just had so much fun talking about video games and thinking about video games so much growing up that I said, what the heck, let's give this a shot. And I taught myself how to program. I was making a lot of art and animation, and from there there's a pretty straight path towards going to Yacht Club for an internship right around the time Plague of Shadows was wrapping up. And from there just transitioning to a full-time employee doing art and animation, and then ultimately level design and design for all those other Shovel Knight campaigns. And now here we are.
Yeah.
So all self-taught. I'd assume that maybe you also did maybe some smaller scale games, or in order to test further how you your skills to make your own small games that you would prototype or something like that.
Little self-published .io games.
I had one of those, but I took all that down actually. No, this is going in the vault. Maybe in a while I'll dig some of this out. But I would make a lot of games in Unity. I would try to teach myself all those new skills. What now exists as Mina the Hollower at a certain point in its development was just me kind of messing around and wanting to program some simple top-down video game stuff just for fun, while King of Cards and Showdown were kind of wrapping up.
Nice.
So Mina was always conceived from the beginning as being top down, then.
Totally, yeah.
Okay,
We've been thinking Shovel Knight feels like our Mario, this very beloved character that we can definitely put in so many fun situations, but people have been asking us for a while now to do something new and to have a new IP. We keep wondering, well, if Shovel Knights are Mario, then what would our Zelda look like, and what kinds of things would we want to add to that genre?
Oh, okay. That's actually a very interesting way of thinking about it. I didn't think about that myself. That's actually really good.
Yeah, you can see the train of thought from it. You can see where it jumps from one to the other. very naturally.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of fun. Just like thinking about all the rules and the boundaries of Mina's world and how it can be different, and how the tone might be like a little bit different as well. So it's been a really great, pleasant breath of fresh air to be able to finally do that.
That's very cool. So as you stated, that you worked on the other Shovel Knight, I guess, expansion. So that would include Spectre of Torment and King of Cards. But would that also include, because from looking through the credits, I saw your name at the start, starting with Spectre of Torment. But then in other games, I've seen you credit only, but just as Yacht Club Games as a more general thing for Showdown, Pocket Dungeon, and Cyber Shadow. So I wanted to just make sure if I understood. Have you worked on design for all of those games as well?
Yes.
Okay.
When we do credits, we like to keep everything kind of just like communal and flat. Usually, we'll just list everybody in the company, so that it doesn't get weird about like, well, I deserve more credit than you, or my name should be before yours, or any of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
You know, fair. we're all in the same boat at the Yacht Club, we like to say.
All right, that's very cool. That's a very cool mindset. Actually, that's
yeah. You don't get situations like you sometimes hear where someone didn't work a certain amount of hours, therefore they don't get to be credited on the games. Like some other companies seem to have that weird policy.
Yeah, I don't see much of a point to doing anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did a whole bunch of level design on Spectre of Torment and a whole bunch of stuff on King of Cards, and I made a bunch of those stages for Showdown. We all worked on all the stuff together, right? So yeah, and it was a lot of fun to be able to contribute to Cyber Shadow and Pocket Dungeon as well, even though those are third-party games.
Okay. So in relation to that, I had saw that on your Twitter at one point that you had quote tweeted the fact that US Gamer had a full like 5-part like kind of like design documentation series, and as I was reading through some of it, I was very interested in like your approach to level design and like one aspect of how do you in what way do you guide the player towards exploring a new mechanic or attacking a new enemy that's on stage. So how long does it usually take for you guys to figure that out, or even more, how long does it usually take for you to feel like just one level is fully complete in its design?
It depends on where the project is. You know, like early on, every level that you make is going to be slow, and there's going to be so many different problems to figure out solutions for the first time that it doesn't get towards like the end of the development of the game usually where you feel like, oh, okay, I know exactly what the levels should look like now because we have the rest of the game, right? It's easy to see what pieces are missing when you can look at the whole thing, right?
Yeah, when you get to this point where you just start like seeing the level everywhere you go, it's like that burnt into your mind.
Yeah, so usually it starts with like a slow process with a lot of iterations on those first few ones, but by the end it's like, okay, I know exactly what this should be. I can knock it out in 1 second. Yeah, the very last rooms of like Spectre of Torment specifically, I remember we were showing a very, very close to final version of the game at like a PAX. And the last room we added was one where I was like watching people play it there, and then on like a notepad, I just like drew the whole thing. I was like, okay, and then I sent it to somebody. I was like, okay, put this in that room, and then now the game's done.
Oh wow, that's very cool.
Nice.
All right. I also remember that within like the I guess the series of articles, in the first one I think, or either the first or the second one, there was one part where there was a screenshot of an Excel sheet where it was stating how I believe it was that you would go around the dev room and ask different people how exactly should this room be approached, like in what way can we expand on the way that this looks, or what elements needs to be changed from the current place of where it's at. When there's any like such roadblocks, does it consist of also just going around again and asking like how should we fix this, or have you ever gone to gone to a different game that you feel like could help you solve what this problem is?
That's a big question. So whenever there's those roadblocks that pop up, we try to reach decisions unanimously as a company. And so it'll usually present itself as like a conversation in our Slack channel or something, right? Where it's like, hey, we got to figure out what to do about this issue, and then people will all contribute and offer solutions. Sometimes other games will pop up, but it's usually not much of a conscious effort to research alternative applications of whatever the problem is, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and as far as that whole element of our process goes, we usually open that up to everybody as well, right? All of those ideas for what the level should be in those planning stages that you're reading about in that first article of the series. All of that is usually done through a process where we just go onto a big shared Google Doc and throw in every ideas, and we all pitch things collaboratively.
Okay, so it's like sticking throwing darts in to see whatever sticks, and then building upon from that.
Yeah, usually whatever idea makes people laugh the most, we'll end up trying to figure out how to get it in there.
All right.
Nice.
Okay. You have any questions at this point, Nanten?
No. I think before we move on to start talking about Mina, I thought it'd be a good idea to speak a bit about Shovel Knight and now that obviously because he's your Mario. I think there were some people out there who were probably expecting Super Shovel Knight or Shovel Knight 64 or something as the next game, and obviously you've pivoted into a new IP, so it might be good to just touch upon some of the questions around Shovel Knight next.
All right.
Yeah, well, I can speak for Shovel Knight a little bit.
Yeah.
After making all those treasure trove games, we definitely wanted a little bit of a break, right? And that's kind of why we were thinking maybe we should spin up some of these upcoming spin-off games, right? That kind of led to Pocket Dungeon and Shovel Knight Diggs development, so that we can keep expanding that universe of games without needing to necessarily spend every waking year of our life making a Shovel Knight game. But having said all that, we have more than one project in development at Yacht Club Games, and I'm sure there will be a future for the Shovel Knight story someday.
Any thoughts about going to something beyond video games with Shovel Knight? He's appeared in so many games now.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I want
feels like
cereal boxes. I want Happy Meal toys.
Nice, get them all out there.
We'd love to see. Who wouldn't want to see their character everywhere, right?
True.
Right.
Got to aim for that animated series. Shovel Knight Saturday morning cartoon.
100%.
I feel like a Shovel Knight Happy Meal toy would be very fun to mess around with.
We had some Arby's toys last year.
Oh,
nice.
I do remember that now. I forgot about that. I saw that once. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then it kind of seemed like, wait, I don't have an Arby's near me, so it's like I can't even attempt to get it.
I don't even have an Arby's in the country, so.
So yeah, I suppose it's probably not worth the trek.
Speaking of your involvement in Shovel Knight as well, because you joined when it was Plague of Shadows, so you've worked on basically all of them except the original. Is there any particular title under the Shovel Knight series that's your favorite, either in terms of playing or just designing?
I think the original's my favorite, Shovel of Hope. They're all, I don't know, it's hard to even pick, right? Just because they're all so different from one another, and the things that they try to do are also just so varied, right? Plague of Shadows is the coolest alternate campaign I've ever seen, but Spectre of Torment is it's the most fluid, easily
most
fun, action-y kind of retro game that I've ever played, and it has such an interesting mobility that I think we could still do so much more with. King of Cards is just like the craziest, wackiest game that I've like ever worked on, right? It's
half platformer, half card game.
Right, like how I can't believe that we mashed so much stuff up with King of Cards, both in terms of just like the large scope of it being like a card game and a platforming game, but also like the smaller scope of like, holy crap, there's like 1 billion levels in here with like so many different mechanics spread across like all of the Shovel Knight games combined. And Showdown is like it's an incredibly like surprisingly in-depth platform fighter. Yeah, they're all amazing. But the simplicity of Shovel of Hope, I think, is just like really attractive to me as a designer, and I can't help but respect it.
Nice. And you mentioned earlier as well that obviously there are still Shovel Knight games being made. Shovel Knight Dig is on its way out soon. And in 2020, you'd help present like this development check-in for Shovel Knight Dig. If I remember correctly, it was on like a stream.
And more recently too, at our last Yacht Club Games Presents, we shared a little update about Dig.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, obviously you're very involved as the director of Mina, but how are you involved at all in like the game design of Shovel Knight Dig as well? Are you working on both projects?
Yeah, I mean, right now, basically what we're trying at the Yacht Club is that we're all just kind of gonna work on everything all the time. So with Dig, Nitrum is doing a lot of the development, and we're checking in and collaborating with them and helping steer the game in the right direction.
Okay.
Nice. All right, well, I think that was all the questions we had for Shovel Knight, so Phantom, shall we move on to Mina?
Yes. So back in 2020 at that Yacht Club Games Presents, you shared that you were working on 2 new IPs, or two new projects coming, and as of last week, we know that it's Mina the Hollower. So when it was originally announced that you guys were working on 2 IPs at that point, was Mina already did Mina already begin conceptualization or in development? Or was it like even before that?
In that same video, we cheekily hint towards it too, right? I think I say a line that's something like, "Imagine what kinds of games we'll be creating in the year of the rat."
Just going to go look at old Yacht Club Presents for Easter eggs now.
There might, I think there might actually be a couple still.
But... what other IP is being hinted at there?
So in that instance, where you were working, I'd assume then that if you were already conceptualizing Mina, and then you would have also been working on King of Cards and Showdown still at that point, was it difficult to focus a lot of time on Mina while still working on those 2 games at the same time, those 2 other games at the same time, or were you able to like actually manage it all pretty well?
I'd say the staggered nature of the development cycle kind of makes that a little bit more feasible. In the last few months before any of our games ship, my most important job is to not make any more changes so that the stability of the game can be maintained and I don't create any new bugs, and we can get the game localized and tested and shipped out to everybody on time. So
everyone else at your club's just trying to keep you away.
Yeah, so while programmers are doing a lot of bug fixing, and artists are doing all of the promotional art for the game and setting up the store pages and everything, my most important job is to do nothing. So that frees up a lot of time to pivot from working on Shovel Knight to something new.
Okay. And for Mina, you're in the director's chair. So how does that change your workflow in comparison to the previous titles that you worked on? Because I imagine that you're probably overlooking a lot of different aspects of the game rather than just the game design.
It's honestly not really much different at all, because I'm also still the designer on the game. So I'm doing just as much making levels and coming up with minor enemies as much as I used to, as well as tackling larger things and trying to evaluate the bigger direction of the game. Those are just titles. Those are just roles. They don't mean anything. Okay. We're just a bunch of people sitting in an office trying to make games together.
That's fair. So Shovel Knight obviously pays respect to the era of NES games, and Mina the Hollower, as we've seen, does the same thing for the Game Boy Color. But as you said earlier, your attention, or at least in your conceptualization, it was Mina the Hollower was always top down. But was the idea also to always pay homage to the aesthetics of the Game Boy Color?
Yeah, I'd say those were kind of going part and parcel. Before anything else had even really started, before I'd done any like true work on the game, the most like initial thought that had gone into it was like, what if there was like a top-down Castlevania on the Game Boy? And so it's kind of from that thought cloud that everything else kind of sprouted, right?
Yeah.
That
kind of naturally goes into the next question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously Zelda's like a big inspiration for this game, and now Castlevania is also an inspiration for this game. But is there anything else? Because Shovel Knight obviously is like very Mega Man inspired, but it also had elements of Dark Souls and other games in its sort of formula. So we're wondering, what else might there be in Mina? What sort of games have more subtly influenced your design decisions?
I think that we ended up kind of swapping that Dark Souls influence for some Bloodborne influence, just kind of one for one. Obviously, we're out of medieval times and into a late 1800s Victorian setting, so there's a similarity already, right?
Yeah.
But most of it was kind of just serendipitous because we were finding that like when you take the really intense focused combat of like a classic Castlevania game like 1, 2, or 3, and then you marry that with like more open-ended top-down exploration and secret finding of like a Zelda game, what you kind of get, it feels a little bit like a 2D like Souls game almost. So we stumbled into looking at those From Software games again just for inspiration.
We get in the difficulty of classic Castlevania and FromSoft games as well. into this.
I'd say not the difficulty, but the challenge, if that makes much sense, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of the difficulty can be like artificial with games like that, right? Falling off the stairs by accident, or like getting hit with ridiculous knockback.
Making enemies sponges.
The more frustrating or like buggy elements of it we don't want to capture, right? But the tension of the fight, right? And that feeling of like, okay, I know exactly what I need to do to defeat this enemy, and all I have to do is like press the button on time. That kind of feeling we want to capture, definitely.
Okay,
nice.
I can definitely imagine it, because from seeing the gameplay, like, oh, definitely burr around with like make sure you're doing it at the right times as well. But part of it also is that like just seeing it happen is like, I'm feeling less tension and more like, wow, Mina's really cool.
Yeah, hopefully, a big key distinction we wanted to make also with this game, as opposed to the usual like Dark Souls, Bloodborne type of affair, is that we thought it should be like fun to play, right? As much as I love playing those Souls games, I can't do it like that often, right? Because it just brings you down. There's no music, just like the silent quietness of your footsteps in the dark, right? It's just a mood killer.
There's a reason I've not managed to beat a Souls game, and it's not the difficulty, because I've definitely played harder games.
Definitely, we're thinking a lot about like the energy and the intensity and how fun the world of like one of those classic Castlevanias ends up feeling.
Okay. As stated within a bit of your previous answer, was that taking inspiration from like Gothic horror and literature, and Shovel Knight also has a bit of that, and even I felt even more of that with a mock-up that you had created, Super Shovel Knight. It was definitely embodied in that a lot. So has that become to like a favorite style of yours, or is that like something that's also from like as a kid maybe?
I drew that because I was playing Bloodborne at the time. Right? Yeah, I guess these kinds of things have been swimming around in my head for a little while now.
Okay.
It makes sense that they would just spill out onto the screen.
Yeah, it's finally getting it all out there.
One thing that was revealed in the X-Play live stream was that you guys are now using your own engine for Mina the Hollower. Was there a reason that you guys decided to make your own engine instead of relying on already available public ones? And also, how long did that take to make a new engine?
So we've never been a huge fan of pre-built engines and solutions. For a lot of teams, they make a ton of sense. But for us, we just prefer the flexibility of being able to add whatever features we might need whenever we might need them. It also allows us to be a little bit more agile with where and when we can release our games, right? Shovel Knight Treasure Trove was a Switch launch title, right? If we made any of that game with Unity or Game Maker or Unreal or whatever, then we wouldn't have been able to be there on day one. We would have had to wait for them to build support for that new platform.
Right.
So for us, we just really prefer having a custom solution. But I feel like we're only lucky enough to be able to say that because we have some insanely talented engine programmers.
That's great to hear.
The Shovel Knight engine was kind of cobbled together quickly just to get a demo ready for the Kickstarter campaign for that way back in the day. And so it always kind of been on our mind to make an all-in-one better solution just for us for all of our games moving forward. That'd been kind of a background task for a while now for a lot of Treasure Trove's development, if not pretty much all of it. So now we're finally getting to put that engine to the test with new projects going forward.
So that's got me thinking. Pocket Dungeon and Shovel Knight Dig are obviously made by third-party studios, but do those also run on the engine, or is that just been a personally internal thing so far?
No, Dig is on Unity and Pocket Dungeon is Game Maker. So again,
Pocket
demonstrating
Dungeon's
that for
Game Maker.
different teams, right? different solutions definitely make sense.
Yeah, I didn't even realize Pocket Dungeon was Game Maker. Really liked that game, I must say. While you're here, really, that was a surprising game of the year contender for me. Coming up right at the end of last year.
I feel like it came out just a little bit too late to get on enough people's radars for that. But I'd say it definitely deserves that praise. We're doing new DLC for Pocket Dungeon too. The whole year, there's going to be more updates coming.
Oh, that's exciting because I've got every character. I've beaten the game with a lot of them, but I think the only one I've actually completed it with is Propeller Knight. He's the only one I've been able to get every key and get to the end, all in a single run.
Well, there will be new characters coming. Maybe one of them will click with you.
Nice, I look forward to it.
So one of the questions that we have is from one of our patrons, and they wanted to ask, is there any chance that the Shovel Knight amiibos will be able to be used in Mina the Hollower? For example, how there was a different color palette that would change. You would get a different color palette in Cyber Shadow. Is there any idea or any plans for that? Something like that.
There's definitely a chance for that. I see no reason why we wouldn't want to support our own amiibos, right? I'd say as long as we're able to, then you can probably expect it to do something. As for what, though, we haven't really had an opportunity to tackle that yet. So if you've got an idea, then let us know.
Okay.
Brainstorming. Any chance for a Mina amiibo? How's that gonna go?
Man, that would be so cool. That would be so cool. A Mina amiibo, right?
Yeah,
it just makes sense.
It just rolls off the tongue.
That's the idea of having your own character and just in the palm of your hand, even further exemplifying their existence is just I can't imagine what that feels like, especially for you guys in a team with Shovel Knight. As an artist myself, I feel like I'd be ecstatic, and it would never leave my mind that exists.
No, it's pretty cool. Usually when something that big comes around, you don't really get to celebrate in it too much, right? It's like, every time I look at that Shovel Knight amiibo, I just think about like, when his like horns weren't long enough and like all the visions we had to do or whatever, right?
The planning stuff.
But I'd say surprisingly that like isn't the case. I still have a bunch up here on my bookshelf, right? Every time I look at some of these guys,
Prototype King,
I'm just like, dang, I can't believe we made a real thing.
Speaking of Shovel Knights, you probably can't answer this maybe, but might he be making a cameo appearance in Mina, considering how he gets around?
So the plan right now is to intentionally avoid doing that altogether, right? I think we're more interested in trying to stretch our muscles and actually create like a new universe for things to cross into or out of later, right? But we want to establish this first outing as its own thing, right?
Yeah, keep it completely separate. I get that. Don't rely on Shovel Knight's already like big reputation, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm sure they'll meet someday in some kind of game. Right?
Yeah,
seems
very
inevitable.
I mean,
Mario and Link eventually met, so
and with Shovel Knight already being in like something like Rivals of Aether, I imagine like the modding community will probably make Mina and them meet in like a mod character in Rivals of Aether.
I'm sure fans have probably already allowed let Shovel Knight and Mina meet.
Yeah, and I mean by the end of the century too, I'd say that we want to have like a Shovel Knight kart racer or like a Yacht themed soccer game. We want to do all of that.
Pantheon of characters and IPs.
There will be plenty of opportunities for crossover in the future, I'm sure of it.
I look forward to playing your Smash Brothers clone.
Showdown's not far off. We're pretty much halfway there.
All right. Now I'd like to move to the Kickstarter. So first off, during the X-Play stream, you guys had surpassed 100,000, and then it's already a week now, and you've, from my last checking, you guys have surpassed 700,000. So first off, congratulations, because at this point, the campaign ends in March, and I can imagine that you guys might end up hitting 1 million at this point. It seems pretty likely.
If that happens, then I told myself I gotta really celebrate. No, that would be absolutely incredible.
So one thing that's been stated oftentimes is that when the question arises about what is the Kickstarter for, is that it's also for building a community. It is for allowing the game to grow and then also build a new universe, as directly stated within the Kickstarter. But the question I wanted to ask is how exactly, in what way is that being done? Is the plan to expand the base game of Mina through the community support, or is it the plan to use the Kickstarter for post-game content or even future titles and expansions?
So we have an idea of the size and the scope of the game that we'd be comfortable completing and releasing, right? But the Kickstarter, in addition to being a whole lot of fun and allowing us to, do development streams and like get people in on the ground floor of everything, it also allows us to dream a little bit bigger for what types of stuff would be cool to see added into the game, and also just like lets us work more comfortably on it for longer if we need to, right?
Yeah.
So every dollar that gets put into it, right, obviously will go towards making the main game better.
Right.
But last time I feel like we kind of got out of hand with our stretch goals, right?
Suddenly making basically 3 or 4 games entirely.
Yeah, I mean we never really anticipated that would be the case, but I think our ambition got away from us a little bit. By the time we were done with working on Shovel Knight, right, our $10 game that people had backed for had turned into like a $40 game.
Right.
And
it came out in like 2014, I think, and then Shovel Knight, I guess, officially finished like a year or two ago.
It's a 7-year development time, right? And so if you add up all those people and you multiply it by that amount of time, right? It's expensive. We spent millions and millions of dollars doing those stretch goals that we sold for significantly less, right? And so I don't know. I'm like extremely proud of Treasure Trove, and I think it's really cool that we got to make such like an elaborate saga with just so much content, right? It feels like this like big epic thing. And I can't believe we actually pulled it off. But I think we learned our lessons that that's probably not the best way to market and release new games, right? And so this time we're going to be trying to keep the focus of the Kickstarter on content that's actually in the main game,
in the base game that everyone
gets, as opposed to signing us up for a whole lot of post-launch development.
Right. So at that point, I guess that I'd imagine that as you're saying that to not stray into doing or putting too much ahead of yourselves, is that the reason why some of the starting stretch goals, the ones that we know of right now, are very similar to what was in Shovel Knight's original, well, not original, but Shovel Knight's Kickstarter as well, like the music player, sound test, or cheat codes in New Game Plus mode?
Yeah, we're trying to keep the scope of the stretch goals overall a little bit lower, I'd say, to answer your question. But don't expect like entire new games to be added on to this. If we do that, then there will be another Kickstarter for it sometime down the line. But having said that, I think there's some really interesting and cool and fun ones coming up. So if we can hit those next few barriers, we can talk about it then.
Yeah, no spoilers. Actually, amongst a lot of the rewards for Kickstarter backers, there's the ability to get like a physical copy of the game, which is it's at the $100 tier, and obviously because it includes every single reward of the previous tier. But during the Kickstarter at some point, or maybe in the future afterwards, is there the potential thought of just being able to get the physical for those who just want that, really, the collectors and stuff?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think when the game is released, there will be options for just getting it. If people don't feel like they want to pledge to the Kickstarter, there'll be plenty of ways to support the game when it's actually released.
Yeah, we get a Mina Treasure Trove edition when it's eventually out, and it's got all the back and stuff in it.
Right.
Another question in regards to rewards is that you'll be able to get access to I guess behind the scenes Twitch streams, or I believe it was the Discord, specifically a Discord channel where you get to see like some of the development that's going on in the game. In the past, I've seen that Yacht Club Games has done like design streams where they've shown off some of the work. Is there any chance that after the project ends, or maybe not the Kickstarter project goal ends, once a while after that time passes, will there be any public streams, or will that still remain to just the backers?
I think we'll continue to do public streams as well. Those are fun, and I think maybe even like the VODs or the taped videos of those streams we might upload just so that people can see them. It's not really about locking people out of the knowledge or anything, but more just trying to foster community and share our knowledge and have fun making games.
Okay. Yeah. So the final question I have is, do you have any words of wisdom or advice for other aspiring game designers and indie developers that are out there?
I mean, it's the same advice that everyone gives, which is just go practice what you want to do, right? Make some games and make some bad games, and then learn from those and make better games. That's the only way to do it, right?
Yeah, just do it. Yeah.
Right. Any final questions on your side, Nanten?
Just trying to think off the top of my head. Any particular reason why Mina's a mouse?
We a lot of it just comes down to character design, I would say. Like, we already knew what kind of archetype Shovel Knight was hitting, so we wanted to make sure if we're adding a new character to our stable of characters, right, then we want to make sure that they're pretty different from one another, just so that there's variety.
Someone who can stand out.
The most initial component of that, I think, was just me like drawing a bunch of sprites for fun in the Game Boy style, just to like get it out of my system. And my partner at the time looked at the mouse one, thought it was the cutest. But from there, like, a lot of really sensible reasons started to take form, right? Having big ears helps create like a really identifiable silhouette that you can track throughout the screen really effectively. I liked that the bright colors would contrast really well with like the darker environment of a spooky game like this. And then obviously once the burrowing mechanics started to come online, no other character design would even make sense anymore, right? It'd be a little strange to have a Simon Belmont looking character digging through the ground at that speed.
Like,
of course.
Just hearing you say that, like, Mina searches sort of like as like the light that is within like this darkness, it feels like it just clicks instantly. Like, it makes so much sense.
It's hard not to construct the library of reasons as you develop the game further, right? It just kind of makes itself in that regard eventually.
Yeah.
I guess
one final question I suddenly thought of, just a bit of a random one, just because I'm personally interested in it. But being Game Boy inspired, there's that game engine that came out, Game Boy Studio, that's like sort of inspired a lot of game designers and stuff to make their little own personal Game Boy games. Is that something you've actually had a look at and messed around with at all?
Yeah, before work on Mina even really started, I think I was just messing around with GB Studio for fun. It seemed like a neat tool.
Okay.
I think they've expanded it a lot since I looked, but I remember
they
at the
have
time
the last
thinking
one
that it would be probably a little hard to make like an action game in it.
It was very basic back then.
But I love what they're doing. I love also that it's so easy to export it to the analog pocket, right? I think that's such a cool idea.
And it's like kind of the sole reason I bought an analog pocket, because so I can mess around and get it there. Yeah.
Are you still able to buy them?
Still waiting until like next year. I mean, people are having to wait till like 2023, I think, to actually get theirs that they've bought.
Yeah, I gave up. I just modded my Game Boy Color instead.
Like that your Game Boy matches the Switch color you got there.
Yeah.
It's my favorite color. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
All right, so I guess one...
Yeah, no, I think that's every question I've got, so...
Yeah. Though, I guess the one final question, because, of course, it just happened yesterday. Any thoughts on the new Nintendo Direct? If you had got the chance to see it.
I loved it. There's so much cool stuff, you know. I love that they're doing something new with Wii Sports. I feel like Wii Sports is really underrated. Like 100 million people played that game. It was a cultural phenomenon. I don't like that gamers are like, no, it's lame and casual. It's like so great.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Doing something with it.
Yeah.
There's so many weird like old AA RPGs getting translations and re-releases. That was all really cool. The Mario Kart stuff, I think, is like the best case scenario for that game. You know, I think that a lot of people want like Mario Kart 9 or something, but dude, Mario Kart 8 sold like 43 million copies.
That's no need for a 9 right now.
There's a big group of people that can sell that DLC to. I think it's super smart.
Yeah, and that DLC is basically an entire game's worth of courses in and of itself.
Kind of like 2 games for 48 courses, jeez.
Yeah. And you get it for free with NSO, like the online
free,
expansion.
But... I'm also a huge fan of the Mother series, right? So it's I'm glad that people can experience those first 2 games on Nintendo Switch Online.
That will be me. I'm usually against... if I have a way to get a game, I usually don't like to emulate it. And I was like, well, I have a 3DS and I know I want a new Nintendo 3DS. So I'll just get it on. I'll just wait till I get a new Nintendo 3DS. And then I never bought it. And then I got a Wii and I was like, well, I could get it on Wii U, right? And then I just didn't buy it. And now it's on Switch. I was like, well, I already have a Switch Online subscription. So I have it already. So I guess I'm going to start playing it now.
There you go. You're going to have a blast. That game's amazing.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I have many of my friends that tell me that almost on like anytime I bring up the question, like, I think I want to play Airfile. It's like, you should. Like, do it. All right.
Shall we wrap this up, Phantom?
Yeah. So that's everything. Do you have any final words or anything that you'd like to share with the people out there listening?
Just thank everyone so much for all your kind words about Mina the Hollower and all the fan art and all the reception to the game. And everybody that's backed the Kickstarter as well. It's crazy, right? We're always just amazed and humbled by everyone's support, and we want to thank you so much.
And if you haven't gotten the chance to support the Kickstarter, I will put a link down in the description below for you to do so. If you guys have any other potentially maybe once Mina releases, or even later in the future, if we come back and do another interview and you have questions, drop your questions down below. Maybe we'll keep a record of them. Any comments or anything that you like to share, just put it in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and always remember to return to the source.